Hi, my name is Keith Knuth. Welcome to this demo on how to use ION to integrate systems using FTP. Infor OS includes an iPaaS component called ION, and ION acts as a system integration platform. Many connection types to these systems are possible. Many file formats are supported, but FTP to FTP is a simple and common pattern that I'd like to demo. Let's take a look at how simple it is to connect systems together via FTP. I've navigated to the ION desk inside the Infor OS portal. I've done that by clicking on the app switcher and clicking on ION desk. Then via the left-hand menu, I've expanded the data catalog menu item and selected object schemas. I've done this because we're going to transfer two different types of documents via FTP. One is a Infor OS BOD and one is a CSV file. For Infor OS BODs, Infor knows the schema of these BODs. These are standard files that Infor trades between its own applications and third parties. But for your own custom CSV file, Infor ION does not know the schema of those files. So, because we're going to do both a CSV and a BOD, I'm going to upload the schema for the CSV file. On the Object Schemas page, I'm going to click the Import button. It's going to ask me for a local file to upload. And I'm going to select a zip file that contains the schema layout for my CSV file. My CSV file is very simple and only has 3 fields in it. It has a company number, an inventory location, and an inventory item. And here's an example of that CSV file with 2 records in it. The zip file that I just uploaded is a simple file telling it what the name of this object is, what kind of separator it has, in this case commas, and then a description of the 3 different fields that I have in the file. More information on how to define the schema is available in our user guide. I'll click OK, and now you can see that that was uploaded successfully. If I click on the CSV demo schema that I just uploaded, you can see that it imported successfully with the 3 different fields in it. Now I can click on the Connect menu and click on Connection Points. Connection Points are the definitions of how we connect to other systems. So I'm going to click the Add button and choose FTP. I'm currently in a cloud environment, so we're going to actually do SFTP or Secure FTP over the internet. I need to give this connection point a name, and I need to give it the connection information. Note that ION is not an FTP server. It acts as an FTP client. So the information that I'm going to put in here is exactly the same as you would your regular FTP client software that you might have on your desktop. If I'm using Secure FTP over the internet, I'm probably using encryption. And in that case, you'll check this box and enter in your private and public key information. For now, to keep this demo short, I'm going to test without it. And we can see that the connection is successful. Now, ION would like me to tell it what kind of documents I'm going to be sending through this connection. So I'll click the Documents tab and the plus button. The scenario is that I'm not writing to a folder, but this is my outbound, or I'm picking files up from a folder in this FTP site. So I'll leave the second radio button selected. I'll select Documents, and I can type in CSV to filter, and sure enough, my document that I just defined, my schema that I just defined, CSV demo, is there. I can select it. If I scroll down, it's going to ask me for the folders from which I want to read from. If there's any errors in processing the file, what folder that should be put in. The pattern of the file that I want to read, I'll just say star.csv to pick up any CSV files in the out folder. And after I read the file, what can be done? I can move the file, rename it, or delete it. In my case, I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it to a folder called archive. There are also options on how often to poll this FTP location. The default is 5 seconds. I'm going to leave that, but I could define more complex cron expressions if I like. And there are polling options to decide what to do in between retries, and if there are the number of errors retries we'd like to do. But I'm going to leave all those at the default. And then I said I'd also like to do a second type of document, a BOD file, an XML BOD file. So I'm going to click the plus button again, leave it on the read setting, choose document, and again search for the type of BOD that I want to pick up. And there's my process item master, which I'll use for this demonstration. And again, I've got to define the same options for this document as it might be in a separate folder on this FTP site. In this case, I'll just put in the same folder read information. And this will be an XML file instead of a CSV file. And I'm done. I can save this connection point. And now it's ready to use. I'm going to send these documents from this FTP location to another FTP location. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the duplicate button. It's going to copy everything from the last setup for me, which will save me a little time. I'll call it demo FTP2. And again, I'm going to support both of these file documents here, but instead of reading out from this location, I'm going to write to this location. So I need to select the other radio button. I'll leave my document as CSV demo. My write location is going to be called in. And my file name pattern, usually you don't write using the same file name pattern. Usually you want to come up with some other type of pattern so you don't overwrite things. For example, I could use document name underscore, and I'm pressing Alt spacebar to get this listing here. Current date time .csv. And then again for the BOD, the XML file, I'm going to write. I'm going to go to the location in, and again my file name pattern might again be document name underscore current date time .xml. Now with the second FTP site defined, I'll click Save. I've got two FTP sites. I can click back. I can see that they're both defined now, but they're both inactive. They're both inactive because I haven't used them in a document flow yet. To do that, I'm going to click on Data Flows, choose Add Document Flow. I'll give this a name. And the document flow will define how data moves from system to system. So from the top, I'll drag the file connector onto the model. And it's going to ask me, what connector do you want to use? Well, I want to read from my demo FTP1. And I'll drag another file connector onto the model and specify demo FTP2. And then in between these two connection sites, I have to tell the model what documents will this model support. So I'll click in between it on the document icon, click plus. I can choose either one. I'll choose both. And now I've defined a model that's saying I want to read files from file 1 using the connection point I defined, transfer both types of files over to FTP site 2. I can save my model, and then I have the activate button, and as soon as I click activate, this ION system will start polling FTP site 1 to look for those files. Now you might look at this process that I just went through and say, well, why did I have to build this model? Why didn't it just already assume that those connection points were there and to start looking for files? If I deactivate this model, and in the future, if my system integration grows more complex and my business grows, I can quickly add in more options here, right? So I could create a parallel option here, move that file connection there, and at the same time, maybe call an API. So when this data comes in from this FTP site, transfer it to another FTP site, but also transfer it to an API. I could also put in a workflow step in between here so that after the CSV file is read, send this off to a human for approval to make sure that the data is correct or that they approve of the business process before I integrate to the other systems. So because I built this on this ION document flow model, it gives me a lot of flexibility to keep adding and growing both in the number of connections I have and in the business logic I have for this integration. But I won't save those changes. I'll reactivate that original flow with just the 2 FTP connection points. And now let's jump over to my FTP site to drop a file. You can see I have my folder set up on my FTP site. Here's my outbound folder. I'm going to drop a CSV file into that outbound folder. And you can see now that that appeared. If I click my refresh button, you can see that this now has an in process suffix on it, meaning that ION is reading the file. It renames the file as it's reading it so no one else tries to write to it. And if I refresh again, you can see that that file has disappeared. ION has picked it up. If I go back to my home folder and go into the archive, you can see that it moved a copy of that CSV file over to my archive folder that I specified, just in case I needed a copy of it to refer to for auditing, etc. Now, if I go to my second FTP site and look in the in folder, which I told ION to transfer it to, you can see that that CSV file was transferred here, but it also renamed it according to the naming standard I said, right? The name, the object name of the file, which was CSV demo _ the date timestamp .csv, right? So that was written correctly. If you go back to my first FTP site and look in the outbound folder, we can also try transferring a BOD file. So I'm going to drag again my process item master file up to this FTP site, and you can see it uploaded successfully. If I refresh the screen, you can see that it became an in-process file now by the suffix, and if I refresh again, you can see that that BOD file is gone. If I go to my other FTP site and look in the indirect in folder, now you can see that both files, both this previous CSV and the new XML file, are there. For more information on how to use ION to connect systems together with FTP, your primary guide is the ION Desk Administration Guide. 2 supporting documents are the Developer's Guide and Connector's Guide, but there is also live and recorded training on campus.infor.com.